بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة الأبدية على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Inshallah, we are going to have our final session. We were comparing the analysis of the methodology of S Alkhoei RA about the unity of the night, and the methodology of S Sistani DZ of the unity of the sunset. However, S Sistani has developed his theory into the unity of the astronomical calculations. Astronomical calculations. So it is a very modern and advanced approach. Like many people, they said that the Hausa is behind, Hausa is retarded, Na'udhu and those sort of things which they say it out of their ignorance. On the contrary, if you see the approach of S Sistani is using pure scientific calculations, scientific methodology in his ijtihad, in his process of deduction, similarly to S Alkhoei. But S Sistani, because the source resources are more advanced in his time, so that's why there's a change. And as I said, this does not indicate that S Alkhoei was a'lam or S Sistani is a'lam. Then maybe it might indicate that S Sistani is more knowledgeable in this field because of this resources. And maybe if S Alkhoei was alive and he had similar resources of this moonsighting calculations and curves and all those kind of things, he would have also had a different direction. But anyhow, since he died, rahmatullah alayh, and these scientific resources were not at that time the way they are now, so we can't give a judgment of a'lamiyya. But the bottom line is, yes, there are scholars, they say because of the resources, S Sistani has an advanced approach, approach which is based totally on astronomical, because our old scholars, they based on sunset and sunrise. Some of the old scholars, they based, then the other scholars, they based on the latitude lines and altitude lines. And this also is not applicable. Sharing of the night is not applicable, especially if there are regions, they don't have the moon in their sky. So that's why, and the narrations are emphasizing on the moon. So the moon has to be in the sky in a way that it can be sighted. Even if it is not sighted, it has to be in the sky in a way it has to be sighted. And this was the main crucial point, the point of difference between S Alkhoei and S Sistani, or between the popular theory and the modern theory, that S Alkhoei said, as long as the night is shared, it's all one region. That means if it's sighted here, it's sufficient for here. That means you don't need to sight the moon. That means the moon, even if the moon is not in the sky, as I was told, that is sufficient. You don't have to have the moon in your sky. And that's obvious from the theory, because if the moon is sighted in United States or Canada or let's say Brazil, it's obvious that then in Iraq or in India and Pakistan, even if some of them they share the night, the moon has not been in a position that it can be sighted by the naked eye, neither by the telescopic eye. Okay, neither by telescope nor by the naked eye. So that was the crucial difference. Is it there in your sky or not? S Sistani wants it to be in your sky, even if you don't see it. That's fine. S Alkhoei says it doesn't need to be in your sky, even if you don't see it, as long as someone is sharing the night with you has in its sky, because sky, the night is one. Now, to sum up, what were the arguments? Number one, let's stop sharing and let's discuss like this. So number one point of S Alkhoei was scientific, that the moon comes out for everybody from the shadow. Number two, he used the narrations. He said the narrations are absolute. Number three, he used the concept of night of Qadr is one and Eid is one from the dua of Eid. These were the three basically summary of his points. So number 1 point, moon comes out for the whole people of the earth. Say this Sistani says no, scientifically it's wrong. Yes, the moon comes out for the people of the earth, there's no doubt, but is it sightable for the people of the earth? And the sightable and sighting cannot be compromised at any cost. Majority of the Maraja, majority of the Shia Maraja, they say sighting is compulsory or being in a sightable position. Sighting or being in a sightable, scientifically being in a sightable position. Sighting or being in a sightable position. Without sighting, no. Why? We have so many narrations. There is tawatur, ru'ya, sighting. So that's why they say sighting is a compulsory thing. So those odd directions which indicate that sighting is not necessary. Once it's out for the people of the earth. So then where will the start be? There is their problem. Where will the start of the moon will be? Will it be like, which country should be the first starting point? So the ulamas, they said, the urf in the times of Ma'sum alayhi salatu was that the day starts with the night. So the first moment the moon is in a sightable position at night, then that region is start of the first day of the month, and that region has the first day of the month. Before that, it's still the previous day. So that day where the moon is in the sightable condition. So for Sayyid Alkhoei Quddus Sirruh, sighting is important, or sightable position. Sayyid Sistani, sighting or sightable position, they both have same. The only point is that Sayyid Alkhoei says as long as they share the night, anywhere in the sharing of the night region, the dome of the night, anywhere under this dome, whatever regions are falling, if anywhere it is sighted, it is enough for the whole region. So sighting is there. Even if it in your sky, the moon had not yet been existed, or it is not available in a sightable position astronomically, that's fine, as long as the night is one. We say this is that the majority disagree. No, you are a mukallaf. You have to have the moon in your sky, in a sightable position, even if you don't sight it. The astronomers, they say that the moon is in your sky in a sightable position. That is the main argument. Sightable position or not need to be in a sightable position in your sky. Sayyid Alkhoei, not needed as long as it shares the night. Sayyid Sistani, it's needed. That's the main core base of argument. So Sayyid Alkhoei said, it comes out. Sayyid Sistani used 5 methods to rebuttal this, and scientifically, and some are from the narrations. And one of the biggest points Sayyid Sistani has mentioned is that our imams, if the sharing of the night was required by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then our imams, their salat, their hajj was batil in certain days, where the moon was proven in Morocco or somewhere where the Medina was sharing the night. So, and similarly, their Hajj, their fasting, their Eid, they were fasting haram fast on the day of Eid, and that is impossible. Why? Because the astronomers were there in the time of Ma'sums alayhi salam, and more than that, we as a Shia believe that our Imams alayhi salatu, they had the knowledge of everything. This calculation, the science Imams, they used to teach other people the science, as we have certain examples from Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam to Imam Sadiq and Imam Al-Rida alayhi salam. There are obvious examples that Imams were the teachers of their time in every field of the science. That is according to our belief as a Shia Ashariya. So that means Sayyid Alkhoei says night astronomically is enough scientifically. Sayyid Sistani responded with scientific response and with the religious response, 5 responses. That is down. The second point of Sayyid Alkhoei was the narrations are absolute. Sayyid Sistani says, no, sorry, the narrations are not absolute, they are restricted. Sayyid Alkhoei said they're absolute, they're inclusive to any region where they share the night. Sayyid Sistani says, no, sorry, they are not inclusive to all the regions. They are inclusive to only certain regions, and there are clues which restrict the narrations. The third point was, Sayyid Alkhoei, is that the dua of Eid, oh Allah, I ask you by the sake of this day, so the day is one. So the day is of Eid is one, the night of Qadr is one. Sayyid Sistani says, yes, you are right, but not on a one general night for everybody, specific one night. No, it's the type of one night of Qadr. It's the naw'. It's not specific shakhsi. It is not. Maybe last week I might have mixed up in my shakhsi and naw'i thing, but the concept was correct as I'm mentioning now. That Sayyid Alkhoei says it's one night for everybody, one day of Eid for everybody, one night of Qadr for everybody. Sayyid Sistani says yes, it is, but not one specific night for the whole people of Earth. It is one generic night. You have that night, I have my night. You have your night. The generic night is tomorrow for you. My night is. So there's one night in general, but the specifics are different. Sayyid Alkhoei says the specific is one. But the thing is, Sayyid Sistani says your specific is one, Sayyidna. It's also problematic because of your theory. When you restricted your theory with night, so that means there are regions, they will have to by default have their Eid next day, have their night of Qadr next day. So you end up by default with your theory, Sayyidina, by having 2 nights of Qadr and 2 days of Eid. So that's why Sayyid Sistani says, yet it is one night. You can't have, like, for example, if you have your day of Eid on Thursday, you can fast on Friday. My day is Friday, I can't fast on Friday. I can't tell you don't fast on Thursday or Friday because these 2 days are Eid. Yes, Eid is only one. My Eid was Thursday. I followed my marja, that is done. Your Eid is on Friday. You follow your marja, you don't fast. I will fast Friday because it's recommended after the holy month of Ramadan, after the day of Eid, it is recommended to fast 6 days. Because holy month of Ramadan fasting is equal to 10 months of fasting. In these 6 days, are equal to fasting 60 days. Each day is equal to 10 days. So that means holy month of Ramadan. And these 6 days, they make your fasting of the entire year. So when do I start fasting these recommended 6 days? Next day of Eid. Next day of Eid. Not the day of Eid. So let's say I want to fast this day of Eid. Let me reduce the squeaky sound of the chair bothering me. Okay, so sorry. So let's say this fasting. Where did I go? I lost my thread. Let's come back. Okay, so these 6 days of fasting. So I want to fast this 6 days. I want to fast from the, no, don't fast because tomorrow is also Eid, Friday. But for who? It is Eid for the followers of the marja, but that's Eid. Okay, I did my Eid on Thursday. So my Eid is one. Your Eid is one. There are no 2 Eids. So I'm going to fast my second day. Okay, you fast your Eid day. You don't fast your Eid day. I will fast my Friday as a second day of Shawwal, okay, which is recommended. So you don't deprive me from getting thawab. You do your fast on Saturday of Shawwal, I will do it on Friday. So you want me to miss the reward of fasting the second day of Eid? So therefore, Sayyid Sistani says, yes, it is only one day and it is only one night, but it is a generic night. That means differs specifically from person to person according to the marja, from location to location, from place to place. Even they follow same marja, but they might have 2 Eids. One is in the east, one is in the west. Okay. Now, so that is that was the last. What the remaining point was the middle point. The narrations, Sayyid Alkhoei Quddasa Sirruhu, he said that the narrations are absolute, inclusive. Sayyid Sistani says, no, Sayyidna, it's not inclusive. especially after you limited it with the sharing of the night. Why did Sayyid Alkhoei use the sharing of the night? Because it starts from the night. He referred to the urf. He referred to the common. Sayyid Sistani says, I'm going to refer to the common. And my common is more stronger than your common, Sayyidina. Why? Because I'm going to refer to the common with several components of this common in urf. What are those components? And that's it. This is what we need to discuss today, the components of commons. He says the components of commons are, Sayyid Alkhoei said, sharing of the night, start the day from the night, okay? He limited, he restricted the narrations, absoluteness of the narrations. And he said it's inclusive to all the regions which share the night. Not all the people of the earth, all the regions, they share the night. Sayyid Sistani says, since Sayyid that you have restricted, I'm going to restrict also. You have restricted the urf, I'm going to use the urf as well. But you have left a lot of other components of the urf. Like what? Number one, the night. I am with you. The day has to start with the night. So that's why in Islamic calendar, we start from the eve. Eve of Ashura, eve of 1st of Muharram, eve of... So we start from the eve, the night before the day. I am with you, Sayyidina. But where I differ is that stretch of inclusiveness to the distant lands. I don't go that much unless if there is astronomical indication. So, number one, night. Number two, closed lands. Why? Because the urf in the times of our Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, they were reaching out to the closed lands, not to the distant lands. Say that if you say these riwayat, they are inclusive to distant lands, you need to give me evidence. Where Sayyid Alkhoei did not present his evidences that the urf would take the distant lands. Okay? On the contrary, we mentioned the riwayat of Andalus, where Imam alayhi salatu wasalam did not give the confirmed answer. He left it on. So if the night, because Andalus and Medina, they share the night, or Spain, or Morocco, or some Egypt, some of those distant lands which we mentioned. So they share the night with Medina. So Imam did not mention this thing. So that means Imam did not, if Imam was interested, he would have mentioned the night, sharing of the night. And it was not known in the time of the people. So it was not even in urf. The urf which was known, which Imam acknowledged, did not change, did not alter, and allowed them to practice the way it is seeking the closed lands, the cities which are closest to the city of the person. The city where the moon was sighted has to be closer to the city of the responsible person. So that was another thing. Okay, so Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, he did not do the sharing of the night. He approved the method practiced around him. If that method was wrong, Imam would have said, no, stop it. Take the distant lands, don't take the closest land. People would take from the closed lands. So Imam did not say anything. So Sayyid Sistani says that means that was approval of the Imam alayhi salatu wasalam. That is at least what was there available in that time, and Imam did not add any other comment on that kind of thing. Now, so these are some of the arguments which we are going to discuss today. So let's go to our slides. Okay. So narrations. So point number one, astronomical done with 5 points, say the Sistani rebuttal. Last point, which was the specific night or a generic night. So say the Sistani says it's a generic night. Everybody has its own genre of night, not specific. The point which was remaining, final point, was the narrations. Are they absolute, inclusive? Sayyid Sistani says, no, they are not absolute and inclusive, especially Sayyid Alkhoei are restricted with the night. So, discussing the 4 authentic narrations, which Sayyid Alkhoei rahmatullah alayhi claimed. were absolute and inclusive. However, he restricted with the sharing of the night using the urf or the common. Okay. The same concept of urf is used by Sayyid Sistani Damadullah to restrict the narrations. Urf means common consideration, common practice, where his understanding of urf focuses on the sighting or the probability of sighting plus the city being closer. So the moon has to be in the sky, and if you take from other cities, those cities needs to be closer to your city. So cities needs to be closer to your city, and the moon has to be in your sky, okay, in a sightable position. The narration of Abdul Rahman and Ishaq son of Ammar is restricted to when the doubt in the moon sighting is due to the obstacles such as cloud, and not when the sky is clear. Neither it indicates that if there were no certainty about the moon being in the sky when doubted. However, it was available in the city that shares the night. So let me elaborate further on this point. Sayyid al-Sistani says, there are three probabilities. When the cloud is in your sky, or fog or dust or whatsoever obstacle is in your sky, then there are three probabilities. I know the moon is there in my sky, or I know the moon is not there in my sky, or I am doubting that the moon is there or not. If I know the moon is not in the sky, it's useless. He says it's useless because the moon is not in the sky. So how can I have first day of the holy month and the moon is not even in the sky? So this probability is not what is in this narration. The moon is in the sky. Okay, the moon is in the sky. I know the moon is in the sky, but the cloud is covering it. He says here also that doesn't make any sense. The guy comes and asks Imam, moon is in my sky in a sightable position. Do first day of holy month of Ramadan. So he says that the only probability which is understood in this narration is that there is a doubt whether the moon is in the sky or not. So when other regions they cite, they indicate that the moon was in my sky. Because he says citing the moon is not obligatory. But the moon in a sightable position in your sky, how will I know that the moon was in the sightable position? Where the closest lands around my city, they sight the moon. Then I have satisfaction the moon was in my sky. After their sighting, I will realize. So that's why Imam Ali Salatu Wasallam says that don't fast unless if other regions, they fast, then you fast this day or make up this day. You got this? So basically, you need to see that was that city close enough that their moon is indicative that the moon was in my sky also in a sightable condition, sightable position. Their sighting of the moon is indicative of my sighting as well, but I was not able to sight due to the. So there is this correspondence, astronomical correspondence. Okay, that is what Sayyid Sistani's key argument is. That is there any astronomical correspondence of being sighted or not? Mulazam al-aqliyya. That means if it is sighted here, it has to be sighted here. Okay, so sighting. Is there any correspondence, astronomical correspondence? This is on this slide. When we move to another slide, he says to elaborate further. The word ghumma used like blocked or shadowed. Okay, I couldn't see it. It is not that the moon, the clouds were covering the moon, the crescent. Because if the cloud was covering the crescent and the crescent is there, there's no need to ask the Imam. Fast. So he said it is not, it is the crescent was covering the position of the moon, where the location of the moon. So we were trying to look at the location of the moon. We could not sight the moon because the location was covered. So Sayyidi Sistani says it's not the moon was covered, the location of the moon was covered. So this is the second point here. So the word ghumma means was covered. That indicates that there was a doubt in the existence of the moon crescent in the sky where it appears, where it appears, I mean in its location, and not the moon itself, like not the moon was there or not. It is the position of where the moon is sighted was covered. Because if a person was sure that the moon was in the sky, then the next day would be first. Since the actual sighting, this is his word, Sayyidi Sistani says, since the actual sighting, focus on this, since the actual sighting is not required as it appears. Actual sighting, these are words of Sayyidi Sistani Damadullah. Actual sighting. فإنه لا يعتبر فيه الرؤية الفعلية كما هو الظاهر. For it is not required to prove the month, to sight the moon actually as it is appeared. So even if it is in the sight, because the cloud is there, Imam says if they fast, you fast. I didn't see the moon. Yes, but it was in a sightable position. So the sighting is not, actual sighting is not required. Say words of Sayyidi Sistani. Okay, so ghamam is the white cloud. Okay, the further elaboration. A white cloud or a thin cloud, like in Medina we have Masjid al-Ghamama. Those who have been to Medina, they know what I'm talking about. There's a Masjid al-Ghamama. So there the Prophet ﷺ was seen that the white cloud was shading. The sun was so scorching and hard. So the clouds, they were shading the Prophet ﷺ from the sun, the sun rays. So that place, people, they considered it a place of miracle, because it was a miracle, a cloud shading the Prophet ﷺ and preventing the heat of the sun from coming on the head of the Prophet ﷺ or even his entire body. So they built a masjid there. And that masjid is called Masjid al-Ghamam. If you go to Medina, you ask about Masjid al-Ghamam, you will know that. The question was that if the Ghamam had obstructed the position of the crescent and the crescent and created a doubt in its existence behind it, then what would be the responsibility of the person? So Ibn Rasulullah, I can't see the position where the moon is sighted is obstructed. So what is my responsibility? Today is the 29th Sha'ban. So should I tomorrow fast for the first day? So Imam says, however, if any other city had sighted it, and then he should do qadha or make up of that. This is what the narration says. Cities being closed, that's the conclusion of Sayyidi Sistani, ijtihad of Sayyidi Sistani from the urf surrounding the Imams at that time, and Imam did not prevent them from following that common practice. Or make up that day, which was the first day of the holy month in reality. Because the sighting in other city would be an indicative of the existence of the crescent in the sky where the clouds had obstructed it. Even though if it was not sighted, however, it was in a sightable position. Thus Imam ﷺ told him to make up that day. In other words, that doubt of existence of the moon became confirmed by the existence through the sighting of the other city in nearby. In nearby is not in the narration. In nearby is the conclusion of Sayyidi Sistani and other scholars who restrict these narrations. They say these narrations are not absolute. They are restricted by the norm of the communities in that time. In conclusion, there is no absoluteness or inclusiveness in the narration, Sayyid Alkhoei, and it does not indicate the inclusiveness of distant lands where the moon is not in a sightable position. The moon is not there. You are in the east, all the way far east. and you share the night. So the moon is not there in the sky. But Sayyidi Sistani would not care about that point. He says the night is one, so the moon is there in the sky in that night. So that's enough for me. Another narration was a narration of Abu Basir. Abu Basir asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, in which Imam required two witnesses. So this was used by S Alkhoei if there were two. Shahidan Adlan min Jami' Ahl Salah. From the entire people of the Salat. That means Muslims who offer prayer. Okay. So if any Muslims, entire Muslim communities, okay, they witness. So Sayyid Alkhoei said, Jami' Bilad Ahl Salah. Places of the Muslims. He used metaphor. Sayyid Sistani says, no, Sayyidna. We use metaphor where there is no meaning concluded from the literal structure. But the literal structure is strongly indicative. What is it indicative, Sayyidina Sistani? It's indicative that the Muslims' moon sighting is sufficient. So why don't we follow the Muslim countries? Because we have a problem. We Shias, we follow our scholars. We don't follow any country. Even if Iran announced, we have to track down were there scholars supporting or it was a governmental. Okay, so this is the practice of Shia. Whether you are following Iran or not following Iran, you are Iranian, not Iranian. Yes, Iranian is a Shia country. Still, the people, ulamas, they confirm that was there any scholarly direction there in the confirmation of the in the declaration of the government sighting. There has been times when Iran declared and followers of Sayyidi Sistani did not follow. Even followers of Sayyid Al-Khamenei who are out of Iran did not follow. Okay, so we do not follow governments as Shias. We follow the scholars and the direction of the scholars. What do our scholars tell us? Eid or not Eid? That is the difference. For our Sunni brothers, majority of the countries, the Sunnis, they follow their governments. If the government, they say it's Eid, Eid. Now it could be political Eid, it could be whatever. It's a confusing situation. Sometimes, yeah, maybe some of the countries, they have scholar, council of scholars, shura of scholar. We don't know about that. Most of the time we know is government announced and we don't hear any scholars of those regions, Muslim scholars. So if Muslim scholars, trustworthy, just scholars, they declare, they have cited the moon, it is sufficient for the Shias. They are Muslims. This is according to the words of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Min Jami' Ahl Salat, those who offer salat, okay, people of offering salat. This is what Imam alayhi salatu said here. Okay. Sayyid Alkhoei said, places of the people of salat. Sayyidi Sistani says, no, Sayyidna, you can't restrict it. Why? Because it makes sense. This hadith is not talking about taking from other regions. It's talking from taking from other Islamic sects who offer salat. We can take their moon sighting if it gave us satisfaction. Like in Pakistan, I remember before, you see, the Shia scholars and the Sunni scholars, they will sit together and there will be testimonies coming from Sunnis and Shias and they both will verify. So there was no Shia, Sunni. Pakistan, most of the time we have seen they have one Eid, one night of Qadr for Shias and Sunnis. You see, it's a public, they declare. Ulamas, they declare, then the government of Pakistan declares. Okay, like Iran, the ulamas, they declare, then the government of Iran, they declare. So it is not that there are some Shia or Sunni countries where the influences of government is less on making the decision of Eid, and the ulamas, the scholars, Shia scholars, Sunni scholars, they make that decision. So Sayyidi Sistani says, Sayyidina, this hadith, okay, so two just witnesses from every city of the people of the Salat, like Muslims, witnessing the beginning of the month. that means not only 2 witnesses, but from every region 2 witnesses. Or to make up the 30th Shaban only if all the people of the regions or people of the regions do, if they fast that day. So there are two indications, either 2 witnesses, 2 Muslim witnesses from every region, or no, if all the people of the region, they do, then you follow their direction. So the reliable narrations of Suma'a. So Sayyid Sistani chooses what? Not people of the city of the people of the Muslim cities. I mean, the Muslim cities. He chooses Muslim people, Muslim. Sayyid Alkhoei chooses the city. Okay, Sayyid Sistani chooses the as it is in the text. He doesn't go with the metaphor. So he says, my supportive argument is the narration of Suma'a. What does the narration of Suma'a say? Because he says, if only 2 witnesses cite in Egypt and other regions in the West, no one cites, that's weird and strange. What are these? Are they supermen, or they have supervision, or the Zarqa al-Yamama? They only cited all these people, different parts of the world on the West. They did not cite. What happened? The moon popped up and disappeared. So there's a weird only 2 witnesses they cite on the whole earth. So Sayyid Sistani says, if these 2 sites, 100 would cite, 1,000 would cite. You see, according to the words of Imam alayhi salam. So what is the narration of Suma'a? He says that, where did it go? Yes. The reliable narration of Suma'a also indicates to make up the decree if the people of the region agree to fast on its citing, and at least they were 500 men. So there are a significant number of people they cited, not 1 or 2. Okay, so if different communities, they have like few from here, few from here, and all these they combine, and they have quite number of people citing, that gives satisfaction. Not only 2 witnesses from Egypt they cited, that means we may base our decree. Sorry about that. That means we base our decree just on the narration of the testimony of 2 witnesses. We can't do that. Okay, that's Sayyid Sistani said. There has to be group of numbers. Okay, why? He says if 2 cite, 10 can cite. If 10 cite, 50 can cite. 50 cite, unless if the clouds were covering like mass areas of the Islamic regions. And that happens, sometimes that happens as well. We have seen it according to our practice. And tracking the moonsighting. So, yes, so the reliable narration of Suma'a indicates that the decree, if the people of the region agreed to fast, people decreed, يقضي أهل مصر على صيام للرؤية وكانوا 500 إنسان, 500 human, على أقل تقدير, minimum 5. If you want to make a global announcement, there has to be clusters of people from different areas. Okay, if these people they saw, that doesn't mean other people they did not see. Okay, so وإذا كان الإمام عليه السلام في الرواية بصدد بيان, so that means in this narration of Abu Basir, what was the narration of Abu Basir? Imam says, لا تقضيه, do not make up that 30th Sha'ban, إلا أن يثبت شاهدان عدلان, unless if the 2 just witnesses they prove. From who? Shia? من جميع أهل الصلاة, not من جميع بلاد أهل الصلاة. Sayyid Alkhoei said cities, مدن أهل الصلاة. No, from the people of the Salat. So there is no location here in this riwayat. There is no indication of location, place. It's an indication of people. متى كان رأس الشهر, that the day of first day of the month was proven. لا تصم ذلك اليوم, do not fast that 30th Sha'ban. as an intention of first holy month. Illa alladhi yuqda, that you normally people they do qada. Don't do qada. It will become bid'ah. It will become tashri'. It will become innovation. Illa an yaqdi ahlul amsar. Unless, because if you don't have qada, it is not wajib on you to do qada. Yes, if you are doubting, bima fi dhimma, just a precautionary fasting, that's something. But I know I don't have any qada fast. So I make a qada fast just like that. That is making something in religion which is not there. Okay, prescribing something which is not there. That's not right in Islam. That's innovation. Precautionary measure, okay. But definitely I want to fast that day because I don't want to miss that first day, probable first day of the holy month of Ramadan. He says, probable. Don't fast that day. Don't do qada unless illa yaqdi ahlul amsar, people of the regions. فَإِنْ فَعَلُوا فَصُمُوا. So if people of the region, that means in another narration, if 500 people, you find out that they have fasted that day, then you do qada. So this riwayat, he says, is totally alien from the concept of sharing of the night, let alone distant lands. So he says that it is totally not supportive to Sayyid Alkhoei's argument. And then there were other two narrations. He says, it appears from the narration of Abu Basir. And it is understood that people, they had practiced. Because fasting of the holy month of Ramadan is so great, they didn't want to miss even one day. You see? So if they realized that they fasted 29 days, oh, we missed one day, they were super hyperbolic irfani people. They had this irfanism to this extreme that they would make sure that if they fast 29 days, they would do one day qada. Because they have heard some of the hadith that holy month of Ramadan is 30 days, not less. Since the time of creation of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, the holy month of Ramadan has been 30 days. Obviously, this narration is weak, but somehow this mindset was there in the mind of the people. No! Like, I was in Qom one year, and people are expecting different parts of moonsighting. When moonsighting? There are people in Qom that, Ya Allah, let the moon not be sighted. Let the moon not be sighted. I said, why? He said, no, we don't want naqas. We don't want incomplete holy month. We want complete. We want to fast 30 full days. You see? So, and surprisingly, that year, the moon was sighted in Iran. No, chishot, kharab shot, tamam shot. Oh my goodness, you would see the expressions like somebody had died. This much keen they are about the fasting of the holy month of Ramadan. And come out of Qom, come out of Najaf, you see totally different. People, they want to travel to break fast. They want to find out excuses to break fast in the holy month of Ramadan. There are people that are dying not to miss one day. And here people are going to die if they will not miss one day. Anyhow, this is how Qom and Najaf, they have this irfanism. But sometimes you might become extreme irfanism. That's what I call hyperbolic irfani activities. Okay, yes, you get concerned about the 30th, but not to extreme, oh, just show this. Be thankful. Imam never complained. Yes, Imam Zain al-Abidin, whether 30 or 29, he would always be sad when leaving holy month of Ramadan. His dua of farewelling of the holy month of Ramadan is packed with sadness. Okay? And people are happy and Imam Zain al-Abidin is sad. So yes, that is, but khalas, proven. Cry on leaving of holy month of Ramadan, but don't become naggy and complain, and then that becomes extreme irfanism. So therefore, it seems they say the Sistani says that there was a practice that they would not fast 30th, but then later on they would do qada, because you cannot fast 30th of the holy month of Ramadan, holy month of Sha'ban with the intention of first of the holy month. It is not proven. How can you fast? So that fast is invalid. So that's why Imam was saying, don't fast, okay? Unless if the people of other region fast, that it was sighted there with them, then you fast, do qada. Okay. So he said that the narration is vague about the location. This narration is talking about the people and not the place. بل يجوز أن يكون المراد خصوص اليوم الذي كان الشك فيه لوجود علة. And he says maybe this hadith is talking about the day where the cloud of Medina was covered, where the sky of Medina was covered by the cloud. Maybe this narration is talking about that specific day. So the narrations are not that clear or vague, clear, and they're vague that Sayyid Alkhoei declared absoluteness, clear and inclusive. So this is we cannot. On the contrary, it is not inclusive. He said they are restricted by the norm and the practice, which was definitely not to follow the distant lands or the sharing of the night. Okay, so two problems with the narrations, Sayyid Sistani says, and we are done with this mentioning of two problems. The narration is indicating that a Muslim is sufficient for crescent sighting, and the faith of the wilayat of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, Imam Ali, is not required. Extending the indication of the narration to conclude the meaning of sufficiency of the crescent sighting, like to include the distant lands and the sharing night, it's a metaphorical indication. And for that, we need evidence. And that evidence is not available, such as to divert the meaning of people of the Salat, like Muslims, to the places of the Muslim, places of the people of Salah, to put places, that requires evidence. And if the meaning is acceptable, then we can't go to metaphorical meaning. It is the concept of Sayyid Alkhoei himself. Sayyid Alkhoei says if literal meaning is possible, probable, you cannot go to metaphorical meaning unless you have strong clue of diversion or clue of conversion. Number two, the indication of qada. The indication of qada. That must be done by people of all regions which had cloud from the Muslim lands. Sayyid Alkhoei says people of any region. Sayyid Sistani says all the people, Jami' al-Amsar, all of them. That because the narration says all of the people of the Salah. So how can we know all of the people of the Salah? Unless if they are reachable. That means the regions which are closest. See how the istidlal works here. The regions which are closest to my region, those are the people, all of them. If they have done the first day of the holy month of Ramadan, then I'll have to do that day qada. All surrounding my region, those are in my reachable. Sayyid Alkhoei said no. Any of the regions of the people of Salah. So Sayyid Alkhoei kept any, Sayyid Sistani keeps all as they are. Sorry about that. So because the narrations said Jami' Ahl al-Amsar, all of the people of the regions. So all of the people of the regions can only be pictured if they are close, not distant lands. Okay, then. So say this is as people of all the close regions to the city of the person who can easily confirm the sighting normally, which can be practical for those people. More even, this indication is more apparent than the meaning which was indicated by Sayyid Alkhoei Quddasa Sirruh. That's it. That was the response of Sayyid Sistani Damadullah to Sayyid Alkhoei's narrative analysis. He said narrations are absolute, inclusive to all the distant lands, sharing the night. Sayyid Sistani says, first of all, sharing the night concept is not there in the narrations. Number two, so he said from the urf, more stronger direction is that closest cities, all of the people from the closest cities. You see, and that cannot be distant land. All of the people from the distant lands, that was very difficult to be reachable. But if I have cities surrounding me, I can find out in less than 1 week or 10 days who fasted and who did not fast, rather than going all the way far. That is Sayyid Sistani's analysis. Now, it can also be responded, but the main key word of Sayyid Sistani was the knowledge of Imam alayhi salatu wasalam about the sharing of the night and everything, and they did not use that concept. Otherwise, their salat and hajj would be invalid. So here Sayyid Sistani says, وهكذا اتضح أن أي من الروايات التي استدل قدس سره بإطلاقها على مرامه مما لا يفي بإثباته. He says, all the arguments, narrative arguments, through narrations, which Sayyid Alkhoei used it, these are not supportive to his concept. These narrations are not supportive, and whatever he concluded is not strong, and it is rebutted all the way. So that we cannot, let's say, he said hypothetically, let's say even hypothetically, if these narrations were absolute, then he has responded to the absoluteness with those 5 points, the first concept. And one of those 5 points was the Imams alayhim salatu wassalams, their salat will be invalid, their hajj will be invalid. And then we said the final point was the 1 night of Qadr and 1 day of Qadr. I spoke this, I'm just going to read it. The shakhsi, one for the entire earth, 1 day of Eid, 1 night of Qadr, even according to the method of sharing of the night, such cannot be achieved, specifically for the regions east or where it was cited. Excuse me. Especially for the regions east of where it was cited. However, does not share the night, because those eastern regions would have their first day on the next day. We explained this, like eastern regions where the night was not sharing, they will have their next day. So we end up into 2 days of Eid and 2 nights of Qadr. He says, it's nawi, it's more generic. It's more generic. I think we have a disconnection problem. Okay. So we said that it is nawi, more, it is generic. Each individual has 1 Eid, 1 night of Qadr, not more, based on the satisfaction of or the variances of the region. Thus, multiple Eid, multiple Eid or multiple night of Qadr is easily understood. So this is a generic. For you is your Eid, for me is my Eid. You follow your rules, I follow my rules. You follow your region, I follow. We all follow Sayyid Sistani. So, but your Eid is tomorrow, my Eid is today. All these are generic things. There's the issue of Hajj. So Hajj, if it was like if people they cite the moon in America, that doesn't mean that the Makkah is also. So Makkah needs to have their own generic Eid, own generic Hajj. And then he says, next point, if it indicates the narrations are all silent. The narrations never mention sunset, night, all these kind of. The narration says if it's cited here, it's cited here. All the other things which we took out was from the urf, from combining other narrations, but those 4 narrations which Sayyid Alkhoei mentioned, they did not have this night, They did not have this sunset. They did not have this astronomical correspondence. Nothing was there. These are all understood from the other narrations when combining them with these narrations. فهو إن دل على شيء فإنما يدل على تمامية القول الآخر. So the narrations, if they are indicative, then they are indicative of other opinion. And what is the other opinion? That the astronomical correspondence. Astronomical correspondence. That means they have similar astronomical readings for the moon, astronomical indications. فإنه لا يحتاج إلى البيان. So what the urf was there, Imam did not stop them. That doesn't need elaboration. On the contrary, Sayyid Alkhoei's concept requires further elaborations, further evidences, which he left it incomplete. أما القول الآخر بكون العبرة. He says this is what we need. He needed to present further elaborations, and he did not present further elaborations or supportive evidences. So the concept of sharing of the night requires more supportive evidences. Now, one thing left is يبقى هنا شيء وهو أنه إذا كان يعتقد إذا رؤي الهلال في مكان. So now in conclusion, this is conclusion. So Sayyid Sistani دام ظله response to all the maraja and all the different scholars, even those who are calling it, talking about the unity of the horizon, based on the sunset, unity of the sunset, unity of the sunrise, he also responds to that. He said all these are irrelevant to moon sighting. Even sunset and sunrise, sharing of the sunset and share. So maybe you might have sharing of the sunset in one region, but there's no moon astronomical correspondence there. That means if moon is sighted here, doesn't mean that moon is sighted there. So he said, no latitude lines, no longitude lines. Some scholars say latitude lines. Some scholars say longitude lines. That khutut al-tul and khutut al-ard and all these. Some scholars, they say sunset, sunrise, sharing of the sunset and sunrise. He says, nothing. Only astronomical correspondence. Very advanced theory or very advanced conclusion based on astronomical facts. He says, if the astronomical facts, let's say the moon was sighted in one region. If your region has similar astronomical predictions and calculations with that region or more, then you do Eid. Finish. Then you do holy month of Ramadan. Focus totally on astronomical calculations. Totally. And then people, they say, houses backwards. Houses. Here we can see that Sayyid Sistani Damadullah is basing his fatwa of sharing of the horizon where the astronomical calculations are corresponding with the region where the moon was sighted. Pure astronomical correspondence. Punct. No sunset, no sunrise, no this kind of thing. This he mentions as old scholars' theories, because everybody tried to explain these closed regions. What do they share so that this city could share? So some said longitude lines, some said latitude lines, some said they say this Sistani says no. The moon sighting curves, which we see, the moon sighting curves, they show, let me show you this one. Now let's take some examples. Astronomical correspondence. So this green zone, wherever it's sighted, it indicates that it is in a sightable position anywhere here. So in this blue zone, however, let me just give you one thing. If it is sighted in the east, in the west, Only those regions can follow the sighting of the east if they have astronomical correspondence with the moon calculations, either equal to, either more than. But if there were no astronomical correspondence in the regions in the west, they cannot follow this city. Very fantastic, pure scientific indication. That means the moon has to be in your sky. Let's look at the example here. So I'll give you 3 examples. Well, what about the east? If it was sighted in the west, can the east follow? Yes. If they were close enough that astronomical calculations were similar, or very close, not less. If less, that means the moon was not in a sightable position there. So in the east, closest lands, and not every closest lands where the astronomical parabola or the what they say the moon sighting calculations are similar. Because if it's sighted here with these readings, it has to be sighted in the east if the readings, if the size and the illumination. And it is not just looking at the size, looking at the height. No, size, height, horizon, that 3-4 factors, they combine and then they conclude. And this is pure astronomical. So if astronomically the moon is in your sky, and if that gives you knowledge or satisfaction, then you don't have to sight the moon. That is what S Sistani says in his discussion here in the moon sighting issue. So let's take a few examples here. Let's say this is Egypt. So Egypt, the moon has been sighted. Okay. And let's look at the Turkey. This is Turkey. Or let's say Damascus, or let's just take Turkey, because Turkey is exactly on the top of Egypt. Okay. So this is Turkey. Istanbul is almost top of Cairo. So Cairo and Turkey, they share the sunset. They share the longitude line, but they don't share the moon sighting readings. Turkey has the moon that can be sighted with telescope. Egypt, the moon can be sighted with naked eye. So that means the reading, even though they share the sunset, even though they share the sunrise, even though they share the latitude line, but they don't share the horizon of moon sighting. They don't have astronomical calculations of moons corresponding with each other. They have variances. This is exactly what S Sistani's theory is. Very modern, very scientific. So you have to refer to the astronomical calculations to find out whether the moon is in your sky or not. Okay, that was one example. Let's take in the west. So let's say Egypt was sighted. I'm showing you the Muharram curve. If you go to moonsighting.com, open Muharram curve, you will understand what I'm talking about. So I'm sorry, this is not Muharram curve. I'm sorry. This is the holy month of Ramadan curve. I'm so sorry, because Muharram, Middle East is not going to be sighted. So it's going to be next day. We're going to complete 30 Dhul Hajj. But Brazil and those areas, they will be having sighting. So this was holy month of Shawwal. In Eid, we had 2 days of Eid, S Sistani and S Alkhoei. So this was the Eid. So let's say if Africa was sighted, okay, we Sweden, Scandinavia are in the west. It was impossible to be sighted by naked eye. Even it was very difficult to be sighted by the telescope. See this red zone? And this black area is impossibility of sighting by naked eye or even by telescope. This is telescopic zone. Though we are in the west, but yes. So the thing is, even if you are in the west, so in a general nutshell, whether you are in the west, whether you are in the east, whether you are in the same latitude line or same longitude line, whether you are 2 degrees up or down. The main issue is, Sayyid Sistani says, astronomical calculations, correspondence of astronomical calculations of the moon. If they correspond, they're similar or more, then you can follow. Even then, you don't need to sight the moon. That's all. Let me just go back and see what was remaining, and we are done for today. It's also close to Salat. So it was believed in the past that if the sighting of the crescent in a place was sighting of the crescent in a place was indicative of possibility of its sighting in other place located in the west of the first place. The reason the scholars, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased upon them, say this is saying the scholars' opinion, old scholars' opinion. Mentioned it is that the moon does not stop or retreat. The moon came, so if it was seen in the east, it has to be seen in the west. It will not disappear. But Sayyid Sistani says that was their error, because they did not have the resources which Sayyid Sistani has, the moon sighting. So it's a curve, not a flat line. So moon sighting is a curve, and it differs from season to season, to place to place. Maybe sometime we share the horizon with Najaf, as it happened. Sometimes we don't share the horizon with Najaf al-Ashraf. You see, so like this time in Dhul Hajj, we did not share the horizon with Najaf al-Ashraf. So that's why we had next day, our Eid al-Adha was next day, and Najaf al-Ashraf was 1 day earlier. So that is what many people, lay people, they don't understand these kind of things. So we may share the horizon with Najaf al-Ashraf, because many people, oh, we did Eid with them. Okay. We are going to do Muharram with them as well, because we will be sharing the horizon with them. But we did not share the horizon in Dhul Hajj. So every month it differs. There are times you may share the moon sighting calculations with Najaf. There are times you may not share the moon sighting calculation with Najaf al-Ashraf. So that is what he's trying to say. وَلَكِنْ ظَهَرَ لَاحِقًا. However, recently, by the advance of the science and all this technology and calculations, that such opinion cannot be taken absolutely. Nevertheless, if the two regions were close enough between the latitude lines in a way that the variances between the two places was not except 1 or 2 degrees, and so on. So 1 or 2 and so on. In a way, according to the difference in based on the difference, so on, based on different situation, because the crescent can increase in the size. So he says a degree or a 2 degree or so on. Depends on different circumstances, different situation of the moon sighting calculations. So because the moon increases, however, there are places the moon may not be sighted because it's below the horizon. So in the west. And then he says, وَهَكَذَا إِذَا كَانَ الْمَكَانَ الَّذِي رُؤِيَ فِيهِ الْهِلَالِ. He says, if the moon was in the west and he stayed after the sunset, now he's talking about the moon sighting in the west and I'm in the east. So should I take people from the people of the west? He says, if the sunset and sunrise, okay, the variances of the sunset on the sunrise was not more than the moon's existence in the horizon. That means the moon stayed more than the variances of the sunset and the moonset, sunset and the sunrise. That means the time of sunset differs, but it is not longer. It is not shorter than the time which moon remains. That means the moon is remaining in the sky and we have sunset. They also have the same sunset. This is based on old theory, because he's going to add the astronomical factor in it. because maybe you are in the east. But then if we go to our drawing back again, so let's say this Yemen. So this Yemen, half of the Yemen, they might see the moon. Other half in the east, they have telescopic region. So now what will happen here? The sunset is same. The moonset is same. I mean, the sunset and the sunrise is same. Like it's Yemen. Whole Yemen is not that big. So only the difference is like 5 to 10 minutes from eastern Yemen to from Sana'a till Aden. That's not that 10 minutes maybe difference, something like that, not that variances. So for example, I'm saying, so there's not too big, but astronomically, Aden, which is in the east of Sana'a, doesn't have the possibility or astronomical possibility of sighting. So the astronomical calculations are not similar to the astronomical calculation of Sana'a. Okay, so therefore this eastern Yemen and western Yemen, we will not be able, they will not be able to take each other. So if western Yemen is sighted, eastern Yemen cannot follow according to this drawing of moon sighting, because the parameters, the calculations are different. So he says, if it is sighted in the west, it has to be sighted in the east as well if the parameters are same. And the region, that only can happen if the eastern regions are closer to this western region. Not all the way far away, sharing of the night, no. It has to be closer enough that the moon sighting parameters are similar or very close. In the west, similar or more. In the east, it has to be very similar, very close. That if it was sighted here, it has to be sighted here as well, unless if there was clouds and other obstacles. And then this page, he mentions same age of the crescent. The crescent is same age, but some place it's sighted. Does not mean that all the regions might sight it, because the height 8 degrees above or below the horizon is a factor. So if it's below 8 degrees, you might, even though it's 30 hours here, 30 hours here, but here in Scandinavia, the moon is below the horizon, below 8 degrees or below 6 degrees. In Spain, it is above 6 or 8 degrees. So it can be sighted. Same age or more does not necessarily mean that if it is sighted in Najaf, then it has to be sighted in London, even if the age it was almost the same, or in London it was older. And here also I showed you the drawing, so we don't want to go more into this drawing. I'll just read this point. The same age of the crescent does not mean that all the regions might see it. And many times people, ignorant people sometimes that are not aware of these things, say, oh, the moon is very high. And the moon is Abu Layltain, 2 nights moon. And the moon is this big. All that is not a scientific criteria. The scientific, I asked them, did you see yesterday? Or did someone claim that it was sighted yesterday? Or was yesterday, was it in a sightable position? No, no, no. Then the moon has been not sighted. This is the moon of 30th, and tomorrow is going to be the 1st. Okay, so the people should, the awareness is very important. People, oh, Abu Layltain, oh, this is 2 nights. No, these are not scientific things. These are all cultural things. Scientific and religious is only one. Was it in a sightable condition in last night in Sweden? Astronomically, no. Then don't continue. Was it above the horizon or below the horizon? Below. Then we can't. It has to be in a sightable position. Same age or more does not necessarily mean if it's sighted in Najaf, it has to be sighted in London, even if the age almost was the same. Or in London, it is older. This year, the age of moon in Scandinavia was older than in Africa. However, it was not in a position that it could be sighted by naked eye. there are factors that lead to a crescent being sightable from non-sightable. Excuse me. And now, وَلَكِنْ ظَهَرَ لَاحِقًا. So those were all previous ulama's opinions, west and east and sunset and sunrise. So he says, recently it appears that all what was mentioned cannot be supported by strong evidence, because if places are different in latitude line and long latitude lines, such as 1 or 2 degrees or similar to it, and so on, based on the various situations. So even 1 or 2 degrees might not be sufficient, because as the latitude differs, then the height of the crescent varies as well. Thus, it could be sightable in a place and not sightable in another, though they both are located in 1 latitude line, not even 2 degrees, no, 1. They said Yemen, 1 latitude line, East Yemen, West Yemen. East Yemen telescopic, West Yemen naked eye. So even in the same line. So Sayyid Sistani says all these are like old methods. So now he is giving his conclusion, and we are going to finish with this conclusion. وَفِي ضُوء مَا تَقَدَّمَ, in whatever we have mentioned. أَنَّ الطَّرِيقَ الصَّحِيحَ, the proper method, the correct method is to know that the moon is in a sightable position or not. Okay, the moon is in a sightable position or not. Where did my slide go? Okay, let me fix this error. Or not. Okay, so the correct method to know that the moon is in a sightable position or not is by use of the accurate, Sayyid Sistani uses the word accurate astronomical data. Again, I repeat, accurate astronomical data that defines the size of the crescent and its height in the horizon or on the sunset. So on the sunset, what is the criteria of the moon and its angle from the sun in both of the cities? So are they similar or not? Therefore, if the city of a person had similar parameters or calculations of the crescent, or more clear and more better criteria from the city that was cited, then it would be a cause of satisfaction that the moon is in a sightable position in the city of that person. So this is what he's trying to say here in this slide. In Arabic also, he has mentioned that فَإِنْ كَانَ فِي بَلَدِ الْمُكَلَّفِ مُوَاصَفَاتٍ أَفْضَلٍ. So astronomical criteria of your city is more stronger than the city where the moon was sighted, or equal to, then just if the astronomical calculations give you knowledge or satisfaction, follow it. You have to follow it. And this is what he says here, Sayyid Sistani Damadullah, in his wording here. If it indicates that the moon is in a sightable position in the sky of the responsible person, however, it was not sighted due to the obstacles. Thus, if a person obtains knowledge, or not knowledge, but satisfaction, something close to knowledge or satisfaction, even though by his experience and practice, even through by his experience and practice, that the crescent is in the sky in a sightable position by the naked eye, then that person must, see the words of Sayyid Sistani, you don't have an option, must act upon his knowledge or satisfaction. If these scientific calculations gives you knowledge, so when some shuyukhs and some sadat, they say no, because they are not satisfied, and it's respected. But those who are knowledgeable about all these things, and they have advanced knowledge of astronomy, some of the shuyukhs and sayyids, I know them, mashallah, they have all this knowledge, so they gain satisfaction. So they have their satisfaction. But those people who have not gone through this kind of knowledge of astronomy, we don't blame them as well. They act based upon their knowledge, because their knowledge is limited only to the rules and fatwas. They have never ever seen this sophisticated astronomical calculations. So they have their point and their satisfaction, and those scholars who rely on the astronomical calculations, they have their satisfaction as well. So here Sayyidi Sistani says that, look at these words. I'm going to repeat it because many people, they don't believe. They say Sayyidi Sistani requires moonsighting. Look at the words of Sayyidi Sistani. I'm going to say it in Arabic, word by word translation. He says, okay, Sayyidina, how will we know the horizon? He says, وَعَلَى ذَلِكَ فَلَا سَبِيلَ لِلْمُكَلَّفِ. There is no way for a responsible person to take except from the إِلَّا الْأَخْذ بِأَخْبَارِ الْفَلَكِينَ. This illa is illa. Except to take from the astronomical scientists. من إمكانية رؤية الهلال في منطقة كذا وكذا. That in certain specific place, there is a possibility that the moon can be sighted. It is in a sightable position. مما لا يتأكد من ظهور الهلال فيها بنحو قابل الرؤية. So in a way that the moon is in a من إمكانية رؤية الهلال في منطقة كذا وكذا مما لا يتأكد من ظهور الهلال فيها بنحو قابل الرؤية بالعين المجردة. So we can't see it by eye. Why? Because there are obstacles. There are obstacles. But moon is there, but we cannot see it with due to the clouds with the naked eye. مما لا يتأكد من ظهور الهلال, which cannot be confirmed by the appearance of the moon in a way that it is sightable with the naked eye. So للنصوص الدالة على النهي عن الاعتماد على الرأي والتظني. So if the scientific calculations gives us only probability, we cannot rely on it. Okay? We cannot rely on the astronomical readings if they give us probability, because the hadith of Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, he says, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُ الْهِلَالِ فَصُومُوا. If you sight the moon, then fast. وَإِذَا رَأَيْتُمُ. So the sighting is there. وَلَيْسَ هُوَ بِالرَّأْيِ وَلَا بِالتَّظَنِّ وَلَكِنْ بِالرُّؤْيَةِ. So it is not by the judgments, like justifications of opinion or probabilities. So no scientific probability. Okay? You need to have scientific knowledge. So the first segment is وَعَلَى ذَلِكَ فَلَا سَبِيلَ لِلْمُكَلَّفِ إِلَى الْأَخْذِ بِأَخْبَارِ الْفَلَكِينَ. So if the astronomical calculations do not give us confirmation, we cannot depend on astronomical calculations. You see, there are two segments in this slide, the words of Sayyidi Sistani. I jumbled it all together. Now I'm going to break it down. So segment number one, Sayyidi Sistani says, if the astronomers, they give you probability, we cannot depend on the words of astronomers. Because Imam al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam says that we cannot depend on the probabilities and assumptions. Is that clear? We cannot take the astronomical. So many people, they take, oh, Sayyidi Sistani does not rely on astronomy. We saw the whole arguments of Sayyidi Sistani are based on astronomical correspondence and calculations. So Sayyidi Sistani says, if astronomical calculations does not give you knowledge, gives you only probability, don't take it. Don't take it. However, listen to this, however, نعم إذا حصل للمكلف العلم. However, if the responsible person gains knowledge, أو الاطمئنان, or satisfaction. First segment was probability. Astronomers give me probability. Don't follow them. Now, astronomers give me knowledge and satisfaction. Same wording of S Alkhoei as well. But S Alkhoei at sharing of the night. Sayyidi Sistani says, the moon needs to be in your sky. ولو من خلال التجربة والممارسة. Even though this knowledge and satisfaction from the words of astronomer, how did it come to you? The calculations through your experience and practice. بأن الهلال الموجود على الأفق المحلي, that your regional horizon, the moon is there in your local horizon. The moon is there in your sky in a specific parameter, in a specific calculation, in a specific height, everything which lead to that moon being crescent, being in a sightable position, that it can be sighted by the naked eye. Even if you did not see it because of the clouds or dust or haze or whatsoever in the sky, fog, you did not see it. يلزمه, see, here's the word of Sayyidi Sistani is very strong. يلزمه العمل. He has to act upon his knowledge or satisfaction. يلزم العمل بموجب ما حصل له من العلم, knowledge, أو الاطمئنان, satisfaction. In conclusion, can we rely on astronomical calculation? Ya Sayyidina, ya Sayyidi Sistani dama dhullah. Sayyidina says, astronomical calculations give you only probabilities. No. Astronomical calculations give you knowledge or satisfaction. Yes, you have to act upon them. Then you don't need to sight the moon. The moon is there in your sky. So you don't need to sight it. You can just go with it and consider your next day as the first day of the holy month of Ramadan or first day of the Shawwal. This is not my words. This is exactly the conclusion of Sayyid Ayatollah al-Uzma, Sayyid Ali Sistani. It's a very scientific conclusion. If the astronomical conclusions give you, if the astronomical calculations give you probability, remember last week we mentioned there are times where the astronomers, they cannot give you knowledge. Like what? Like the beginning of the first areas of moon sighting. We said one astronomer told us the first moon sighting will be in Brazil. Another told us it will be in Ivory Coast. And there's a vast Atlantic Ocean. So that gives me probability of moon being sighted in Ivory Coast. Because Ivory Coast is in Africa. Brazil is in South America. There's a huge Atlantic Ocean distance between them. So that doesn't give me satisfaction. Though he's a scientific calculation. Yes, but they differ. When they differ, they give me probability. They don't give me satisfaction. However, if they all, or the 4 or 5 astronomers, they agree on one point, that the moon is in a sightable condition in your sky, sightable position, they all agree. So that gives you knowledge. At least it gives you satisfaction on the larger probability. Okay, then you have to act upon. So knowledge or satisfaction on larger probability. That means that's a strong indication that the moon is there in your sky. And this was a fatwa. You will find it on the website of World Federation in the archives. And based on that, let me tell you, when Sayyidi Sistani Damadullah, now some of my Arab scholars, colleagues, or from Iraq and other, they have problems. Their problems again, there's marja, come on, you're doing taqleed. They protest, say, how can Sayyidi Sistani give a declaration for Sweden, and Sweden we have not cited? Well, because it's depending on astronomical calculations. Hello, think, if you are behind 100 years, that doesn't mean your marja is behind. Why? Learn from the marja, snap out of it, wake up, go to the time machine which wakes you up in this era. So some of my friends, shiukhs, because I joke with them a lot. No, like last year, Sayyidi Sistani, not this year, last year, he declared Eid for Scandinavia. When we had 6 o'clock, and 6 o'clock is not Maghrib, 6 o'clock is Asr time here in Sweden. Okay, Najaf, the Middle East, they sighted moon abundantly. We had yet not sighted the moon. So Sayyid Sistani sent a declaration to all the other regions in the West, wherever the scientific calculations are there, their correspondence. There are regions they would not correspond. He said next day. There are regions. So he gave based on this moon sighting curves. What happened? Some of our shuyukh, they didn't like it. No, how can this and that? Alhamdulillah, non-Arabs, they were submissive to the marja. They know the value of marja. Even the Arabs. But some of the Arab shuyukh especially, they have some problems with Sayyid Sistani. You see? So they started, oh, how can this be? How can this be? So Sayyid Sistani, his declaration, for English, it stayed same. I still have the copy, najaf.org. He changed the declaration. Okay, you guys do based on your, like, in other words, I would say, to hell with you guys, for example. Okay, do whatever you want. If it's satisfaction, satisfaction, not satisfaction, he left it on them. Come on now, Marja gave us declaration for Sweden. What could be nicer than that? We need to appreciate the Marja. But there's ignorance. Even in some of the Muammamin, wearing big amamas, they're real black ignorant, double compound ignorant. Marja gives you declaration. He did not bring it from his pocket. He has scientific observatory in Qom. It's one of the most expensive telescopes there in Qom. He's depending on scientific. Every year he sends declaration of Eid al-Fitr. Whenever there are differences in horizons in the place of the world, he sends declarations. Last year, as usual, he sent declaration. Some of our Iraqi shuyukhs or Sadat, they didn't like it somehow, you see. And they started protesting, said Muhammad Rada Sistani and then Najaf al-Ashraf. So Sayyid Sistani doesn't want headache. You say, okay, you want to take your responsibility, take your responsibility. You see, but the English fatwa was not changed. I have the copy of Arabic fatwa before change, Arabic fatwa after change. English fatwa was same. Non-Arabs, mashallah, they took the words of Sayyid Sistani, scholars and lay people and submitted to it. The Arab, some of the shuyukhs, Arab, they had this problem, a rebellious nature. And this, I was surprised. You're following Sayyid Sistani. Your marja has given a declaration according to the scientific, according to his fatwa, according to his booklet. If you have not read his booklet, if you have not understood him, then just keep quiet and follow his declaration. No? We have people, they think they're more knowledgeable than the marja, unfortunately. And they want to correct the marja. Obviously, marja is not an infallible ma'soom. But who are you? Let a mujtahid correct a mujtahid. Why are you ignorant person wearing big this amama and whatever, and you're challenging your own marja and you say, I'm following Sayyid Sistani. This is not right. This is not acceptable. Where nobody sighted the moon in Sweden. Yes, but scientifically it's same parameters which is in Najaf al-Ashraf. That was last year. So that is our problem. So this is one of the questions they asked Sayyid Sistani about same what we spoke, moon sighting curve. And I'm going to just read the English, okay? And that's it. That's for today. So the office of Sayyid Sistani, may Allah reward and prolong his immense life and this and that, based on the criteria mentioned in Minhaj al-Salihin as well as the scientific and practical evidence proving the ability to see the red areas. Now this, in here, as I showed you, this green area is, according to this scientific parameters, red area, where the moon is sightable with naked eye. And then this blue area is here yellow. So just keep in your mind, red area is sightable with naked eye with easily. And here in orange area, it's with the clarity of the sky. So they ask the question, ability to see red area. Can we consider that the phrase union of horizon or unity of the horizon covers all the red covered areas, and consequently say that the crescent has been determined in Los Angeles, it would have been determined in Miami and Ecuador? His answer, if there is a proof which gives certainty that the crescent has similar high and illumination. What does it mean? That means same parameters, same calculations, okay, same description scientifically. In areas of red curve, okay, and other below areas as well, which usually cite the crescent after, like if it's cited here, it's going to be cited there. So based on regular manifestations, then yes, it will be considered one horizon. So horizon to Sayyidi Sistani is basically these moon sighting curves. Okay, if you are in the west, if anywhere in the east is sighted, look, do you share that horizon? Do you share in the same moon sighting curve? Let's opposite. If in the case of crescent being with the less high and less illumination areas, which usually can be sighted by the naked eye, even astronomers claim its possibility. So basically, in Arabic, it's not translated properly in English. Let me go and do the word-to-word translation, because that's where I have problem. Whenever we have this translation, it's sometimes not translated properly. So basically, this was someone translated in World Federation before. Let me read the exact Arabic fatwa of Sayyidi Sistani according to the Moonsighting curve. إذا ثبت إذا ثبت أن الهلال, if it was proven that the moon في المناطق التي تقع بالقرب من حافة المنطقة الحمراء, if it was proven that the areas which are located close to the edge of the red area, that means green area in the moonsighting.com, يكون بارتفاع وحجم مقارب, in a way that the height and the size are similar, the parameters are similar. للهلال في المناطق التي بعدها, similar to the areas which are after it. مما رؤي الهلال, where the moon has been sighted. So where is the moon sighted? The moon is sighted in the west. Where are you? The edge area of the red or the green edge area, not the blue area. Still I am in the green area. So if the size of the moon or the illumination of the moon and all these parameters were same, the eastern regions can follow the western regions. Okay? بخلاف ما احتمل أن يكون أقل من ذلك. Unlikely if the size and the illumination and all the parameters were less than that. في تلك المناطق بحجم أصغر أو بارتفاع أقل. So in the regions where it was less, okay, less أصغر أو بارتفاع أقل, the height was less and the size was less, that means the parameters were less. بحد لا تتاح معه الرؤية بالعين المجردة, in a way that it cannot be sighted by the naked eye. وين ادعى الفلكيون منها في ذلك إمكانية ذلك, even if the astronomers, they claim that it can be sighted, but they were in the east and the parameters were less than the parameters of the regions in the west. And if you can see, if I'll bring you back to this this map. So basically in this map, you see the orange, the red edge. They have shown all the cities in the edge. So we have Los Angeles, Dallas, Miami, Cuba, Ecuador. All these regions, they can follow each other. Why? Because they have similar parameters. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. So that was basically the why Sayyidi Sistani Damadullah. So in conclusion, Sayyidi Sistani has only one thing. If you follow if a region has sighted, if the moon parameters astronomically, you have to refer. If they give you probability, no. If they give you knowledge and satisfaction, yes. And that's all what he based his arguments on. And the closest city, why the closest city? Because the parameters are similar normally. Why? Because in the times of the Imam alayhi salam, they used to. So urf, closest cities, scientifically closest cities. So that's the, and he evolved it further to include any cities which are far away, which has similar parameters of moon sighting, which that gives you knowledge and not probability. Like if all the astronomers, they agree, then that gives you knowledge. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi tayyibin at-tahirin. Inshallah, our next session will be after Arba'een. So we are going to, inshallah, be busy in the majalis of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. There might be some classes, but this bahth, inshallah, it requires a lot of time to prepare and understand the bahth of our great ulamas and maraja. So it will be, inshallah, after the Arba'een. So until Arba'een, we might have some easy basic classes. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.